So when George decided wasn't hard to convince then, after those things happened, that we should get off the highway before we lost a kid. I guess we could have stand to lose a cow. But we didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to sell the place, and then some people knocked at the door one day shortly, and a fellow knocked, and he says, introduced himself and says, I'm Silver White. Can I look at your house? Can I come in and look at your house? And I thought, what in the world would he want to look at? I asked him, what do you want to look at the house? And he says, well, it is listed, isn't it? And I says, no. And he says, well, it's in the paper this morning, it's listed. And George sold it much cheaper than it was worth. At $18,500 we sold that place for. And we had to find another place. We had cows and we had kids. And we went over heard about a place. His brother lived over near Spokane, and we went over there to look for a place. Got a carload, I think I said this, a carload of watermelon to bring home to Betty. And they were living in a trailer north of here. And Betty, my sister, and her in-laws lived in this house. And they had moved to Spokane, and his Berg's folks told them to come home, and they could have this place, but when they came home, they didn't give it to them. They just moved a trailer in out here for them to live. And Betty says, why don't you buy this place? And I said, well, it's not listed. And she says, well, Clint is going to town tomorrow to list it. And he hasn't done it yet. And I rushed home and told George. I remember he came in dressed up, came in, called one of the boys to finish the milking. He was milking cows. And he came right up here, and he came home a couple of hours later and says, well, I bought us a place. And it was a relief to get off that busy highway. And we moved up. We couldn't move in until January the 1st, 1960, so that was the time we moved into this place. So we moved up here. Char was almost through high school, and he had got a job working for the weed control when he was 14. They'd hire kids that age and pay them well and give them a man that was experienced in doing the work. And because Char and Russ were about the same size, we always needed somebody at home to help with our chores, but decided that we could let Char go because Russ was home could help us enough with what needed to be done home. And we couldn't move in until January the 1st. But I don't know why we couldn't move in until then, but the house here was painted with peach and pink walls. I couldn't believe, not peach and pink. One room would be pink and one would be peach. Even the kitchen was peach colored. And so I would come up here, and Lauren was 6 months old, and he was so unhappy. He just felt, I don't know what made him so conscious of what was going on, because I'd bring him up here with me, and he would cry, and I'd take him home, and he would cry. And if I put him down, so I painted this whole house. I got help on the ceiling. But I did all the woodwork in the walls, carrying Lauren around in one arm and painting with the other arm. He doesn't like to hear the story. But anyway, he was 6 months old when we moved up here. So this was his home until he went away permanently. When he went to college, he'd come home. After he was married, he and his wife came home, and he'd worked for me for 3 years. He would help, and they would live here with us.